Welcome back to the Disc Dog Pod. I'm your host, Kirby McIlveen, and this is your co-host,
Jeff Hill.
And today we are going to talk about warming up for events and preparing for events and what to do leading up and what to do day of.
That's right. And that's pretty much the most important thing for success. If you don't practice, if you don't get ready, you're not going to have a good day out there if you're trying to be successful.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think preparation is a big part of the piece to figuring out, the competition world of disc dogging.
Yep. You got to keep your dog in shape, got to keep yourself in shape.
Right. So what do you do?
Well, leading up to the competition, I do my usual things where if I can run or hike or I got a stationary bike, that kind of stuff, just to keep myself in shape. Nothing changes much with that, except I usually stop all that stuff the week of, like the week before the competition, or at least 3 or 4 days before, just to risk. You don't want the risk of injuring yourself or having something sore. So I just try to stop a little bit early, whereas normally I'm trying to do something every other day, something like that. And then the other thing I do before the event is I usually ramp up my training. And a good example of how I do it maybe for a few weeks leading up to the event is one day I'll do toss and fetch with the dogs. Then the next day I'll do freestyle with the dogs. And then the next day I'll give them the day off, and then I will do my throwing practice. And then I'll just continue into the cycle. Something along those lines. Sometimes I do freestyle and toss and fetch on the same day just to get them a little bit used to, because they're going to have to do that. And then usually once I get to Wednesday or Thursday, assuming we're competing on Saturday, by Wednesday or Thursday, I just stop everything and don't do anything at all. I don't do anything with myself or the dogs. They just rest. And that's pretty much leading up to the event.
So usually Thursday, Friday, they don't do anything?
Typically Thursday, Friday, never do anything. But sometimes on Thursday, we will if I need to for some reason, but usually not.
I'm somewhat similar as far as like what you said about, preparing and training, trying to do something, consistently, maybe every other day or, a few days in a row and take a day off. That's my typical training, same thing. And I try to stop. I do less the week of an event. So my preparation is usually based off my dog. So it depends on what they do best or what circumstances get them to perform their best. So that can be different for different dogs. And so one thing I try to figure out when I'm learning about my dog is what amount of play is going to help them bring out their best. And I think that this changes throughout the years. I find that dogs that are younger, that are, maybe 1, 2 years old, 3 years old, they're really vibrant and full of energy, and you almost have to like play them a little bit to get them to calm down. And that's better for them, playing them a little bit more. And then as they get older, it's more about conserving them and making sure that they're, well rested and ready to go.
Yep. You either need to increase their stamina when they're young and their strength by doing more. And then as they get older, you just want to maintain where they are, which is less. If you keep doing that same amount, the dog is going to start kind of tapering off and not have the same energy.
So I do something a little different with each dog, or, if the dogs happen to be the same, where, they work out the same and it's great, then they're the same, but sometimes they're not. So an example of my dogs right now is that Sora is 7. And so I don't want to, run her off like crazy, but she definitely still has that like adolescent, vibrant spirit that she's like, okay, I need a practice. I need a little bit to get my head in the game. And Flair's kind of the same way. Whereas it's kind of funny because it's totally opposite with my younger dog. Link, he's actually better when I play him less. So he's more vibrant, more driven and focused. If he's been playing a lot, he's kind of like, okay, the Frisbee thing's super cool, but there is that tree over there that I really want to go check out. We've been doing this like every day this week. So I'm going to go check out the tree. So it depends on the dog. It's not always age related, but just generally the trends that I find with the ages. So my dogs right now are a little bit opposite of what I would expect for their ages. But so leading up, what I do with Sora and Flair. And typically I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or sometimes I take Monday off and just do Tuesday, Wednesday. Depends on, maybe how many competitions they've had lately, or what's been going on. Sometimes they're busier than others. But I definitely try to play Tuesday, Wednesday leading up to the competition. Then Thursday is generally a break day. And then Friday is like a light play day. So usually on Tuesday, I would do something like toss and fetch, maybe a round or two of toss and fetch. And then Wednesday, I would do freestyle and toss and fetch. And that's kind of like our final practice. I might do like a Monday, Tuesday where I train like kind of the foundations, or I focus more on rewarding. And then on Wednesday, I might do a practice that's more competition-like, where I set a timer and actually play like I'm going to compete as like a final competition practice for the week. And then Friday, I will typically do one round of toss and fetch. And the reason that I do this with Sora and Flair is that I feel like they get a little bit, it's not rusty because it's 2 days off. They're not going to get rusty, but I feel like if they just get a little bit, their mouth and their body are in sync, they feel, I think, or at least I feel that we're a little bit more practiced, we're a little bit more sharp, but I'm not doing anything to wear them out. I mean, it's quite literally one round of toss and fetch, and I don't want to do anything that, might wear them out. So just a little bit of play just to get their bodies moving and all of that, so they're not, shelled up the next day. And then Saturday is typically the competition day.
Well, I was going to add a couple things before we get to the competition, because you made me think of a couple items I missed.
Yes.
So it does matter where you are in the season. Very beginning of the season, I'm not putting much effort into it, to be honest with you. I'm going a lot slower. I'm not worried about where I'm placing much or anything like that early on in the season. I really ramp it up as the season goes on. If I'm in the middle of the season and I got 2 competitions weekend back to back, typically what I'll do is, if the first weekend competition went really well, I generally will only play with any of the dogs on Wednesday. I'll play them one time right in the middle of the week before the next competition. And sometimes I don't even play them for the whole week. If everything has just been tight, maybe we've had 3 weekends in a row and we've just been
if it's traveling too, sometimes it's challenging. If
right.
You got to drive to one place from another,
So sometimes I don't even play for the whole week going into a big competition. And sometimes I might just play once if we've just been competing a lot lately. And I was also going to mention on the traveling, a lot of times when we're traveling, you and I both do the same thing many times over the years. Countless times I've done this. Stop and do some toss and fetch with the dog, especially toss and fetch, because it doesn't take as much time and you can run through all the dogs,
it's
let
quicker.
them get some exercise. And
they've been cooped up in your car or your RV.
And you can do your throwing practice if you want to and things like that. And I used to do that all the time. I don't do it anymore, but I used to do it all the time. Maybe whenever I was a little more serious.
Yeah.
But now we're up to the day of the game day.
Yeah, I was going to say, I forgot to mention the contrast of like what I do with Link versus Sora and Flair. So like Link plays on Wednesday and I don't play him Thursday or Friday. He doesn't get anything because he's almost better if he gets nothing.
Sometimes less is more.
Yeah. He's actually sharper when I do less.
And it could be for a lot of different reasons. It could be because the dog's getting a little older. It's not with his kid.
Not in his
It
case.
could be a dog that doesn't have drive. That's not his issue either, really.
He's mostly just a bone brain, dorky, like immature boy.
Yeah, so like me.
There you go. Exactly. So the other thing I wanted to mention before we move to competition day is that I do try to find a pattern with my dogs that, exactly how much play and how many days should be off and which days should be off, and kind of try to find what gets them to their prime level of play. What's the best way to prepare? So that's something that I test and record and keep track of. And then when I find what that dog needs, then I do that leading up to events. And then, of course, over the years it may change. But that is something that I really think about. And the other thing is that this sounds a little crazy, but I like to have some kind of pattern or something repetitive that maybe the dog can cue into, that they know an event's coming up. Because I think, you know, if your dog doesn't know, I mean, imagine you're the dog. You have no idea when competition day is. I mean, I don't know. I feel like if my dogs know that the day before a competition, I take them out for a round of toss and fetch, and then I pack up the car, and they see me loading all my junk in the car, they might be like, huh, I wonder if something's going to go on soon. So I don't know how much that plays anything into it, but, you know, I would love to be able to just tell my dog, tomorrow's the competition day. Like, make sure you get good sleep. Like, don't, you know what I mean? Just kind of, if I could tell them so that they could know it's in their heads. But so I don't know how much that actually plays into it, but I do try to repeat the same pattern over and over so that maybe there's some indication of, you know, there's something going on here. So yeah, I think with that probably covers a lot of the preparation. You know, there's more to it.
Try to get a good night's rest. That's the most important thing for me, because I have a hard time sleeping.
Don't eat anything unknown that's going to make you sick.
Yes, don't go out.
Don't try new things.
Don't go to a sushi restaurant that's, you know, in the hood somewhere, and it's, you know, 100 degrees outside, and the air conditioner broke. You know, just that kind of stuff. Don't do those kinds of things. Don't try new things on the night before the competition. You can try that when the like after the competition's over. You know, but that's all kind of just common sense. I would hope. Don't do anything crazy the night before. And then that leads up to competition day. Yeah, and for me, to be honest with you, this is a pretty short discussion, because you should already be prepared for the most part for almost everything. The training's done, the dogs are conditioned, you're conditioned, and hopefully everything's ready to roll. So I don't do a whole lot special during day of, but there's a few little things. Very first thing in the morning, as soon as I get there, I walk the dogs. I try to get them to see the field. If it's a place they've already competed before, I want them to know that they're in their spot where they get to compete. They're going to already be excited and happy about it. If it's a young dog, what are they going to do? Maybe this is a new place. Are they sniffing around? It's going to give you some indication of what's going on. Hopefully they didn't eat anything the day before that was weird either, you know, and cause them any kind of digestive problems, but you might find out in the morning if they did. So I always like to start out just with a simple walk like that to get them going, which seems obvious, but I'm actually doing this as a competitor, that this is part of our training. This is part of what we're doing. We're getting to see the field. I'm walking them near the field. I'm walking near the easy ups. Is anything bothering them? Trying to just gauge the situation. And that's most of what I do, except right before my rounds. Usually I'll just do a little tugging with them just to get their mouth activated so that they know, maybe, especially if I use different discs with a dog, they know what kind of disc I'm going to use. If I'm working, let's say it's a younger dog and I'm still working on their handoff, I might go do a couple throws to get a handoff going. I usually try to give them at least one, let's say 15-yard throw off to the side. I don't do any full long throws or anything like that. One throw at the most. Once the dogs get older, I generally never give them a warm-up throw. I usually just tug with them, walk them around, get them loosened up. And I also keep them in my RV, in air conditioner, and maybe a little bit more relaxed than at the field, and that's an advantage I got. But I also spend the time, the money, and the effort to get my RV there and maintain it and everything. So I have that as a luxury. And it is a luxury to have, and it does help your competition if you have an RV. Yeah. So the dog's sitting out in the heat, or if they're in your car. That's a whole other episode that we'll get into. Yeah. So, but it's a preparation. I have to take my RV and I have to have it ready. There's got to be water in there and things like that. So, I think that mostly covers what I do. I don't do a lot day of.
Yeah, what about your throwing?
So throwing warm up, that's a really good question, because I did.
Yeah, especially for you, because I think what you do is very different from like everybody else. Because I was mostly thinking about preparing the dog. So preparing for me, of course, you do keep yourself hydrated and stuff like that. When we do, I don't practice much of anything for freestyle at all. Typically, I might just practice a couple of the real difficult things, like a kick brush. If I do a chest roll, something that's really difficult, I might just practice that, or 2 or 3 times, that's it. Or something that
maybe wasn't working like a specific throw in freestyle. Now, toss and fetch, when you have toss and fetch warm up, I go out there, and especially when I was having elbow problems, I would go out there and throw 20, 30 yards. That was it. And people would always pick on me. Why are you just doing that? I'm like, well, this is called warm up. You don't go out there and just throw as far as you possibly can or whatever your very first throw. It is warm up. Different people are going to have different levels. For me at that time, when my elbow was really bad, or my shoulder, I tore my rotator cuff, or any other injury I've had, it might be 20 yards that I'm warming up with. And I might not even do a 40-yard throw because I don't want to take a risk on damaging my arm or anything like that. It's not bothering me as much anymore. So now what I do is typically about, I do about 5 throws from each direction, up to 10, but usually just about 5 each direction, and then I'm done. That'll be it. I go up my discs, and I'll do full 40-yard throws typically, because now, like I said, I'm not having too many problems with my arm, so that's not bothering me. And for me, a 40-yard throw is kind of a normal throw for me, so I could just go out 5 throws each direction, and I'm done. Or none sometimes, but
well, depends on the event.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm not trying to win something,
the
I might not do
more
it.
wind there is, too, the more you feel like you have to go do it, because you're like, oh gosh, I gotta see what is going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Which is, it's going to change
if
anyways.
there's virtually no wind, then
Yeah.
you feel a little bit more comfortable saying, okay, I can get away with less warm-up throws because I don't need to adjust, really. So for me, I'm a little different. I mean, I try to start out in the morning. First thing is drink a Gatorade, because I don't like to drink during the event. I tend to, I mean, I do, but I don't like to drink a lot because it means you got to go potty a lot.
I drink a lot.
And I hate having to run to the bathroom every time. So yeah, so I start out by trying to pre-hydrate, and I usually do that the night before a competition too. I'll usually try to have a Gatorade. I'll try to do one in the morning too. So anything to just try to pre-hydrate before I get distracted and just caught up in the competition and not drinking anything, because nothing worse than like getting through halfway through the day and the end of the day you're like, oh God, I got 2 more rounds to do and I'm like dying here of dehydration. So I don't like to play catch up on dehydration. I'd rather prepare in advance.
It depends on what you can muster, though.
So anyway, so when I get there at the competition, usually I've pottied my dog somewhere else. So like if I'm staying in a campground, then usually I'll potty them there. If it's competition at home, they've already went to the bathroom at home, so they're just kind of hanging out. Usually I'll try to go and figure out like throwing. That's like one of the first things I want to do is, as soon as I can get on the field, I want to get on the field. And I do toss and fetch throwing practice, and there's not really an exact number of throws that I do, but immediately my first thought is I'm trying to go into decision-making mode of what side I want to throw from, what advantages and disadvantages are there from each side, and what's the situation. How windy do we expect it to be today? I mean, if we're already feeling a little breeze at 8 in the morning, it's probably not going to be great. If it's 9 o'clock and not even a little bit of wind, you might be okay. You might not have as much wind. But some other things I want to evaluate is the field sloped at all? Is there any other concerns about the field that I need to be aware of in order to make good choices on what would be best for my dogs?
Type of disc.
Yeah, the type of disc that I want to use. If you're going to switch different discs, if it's headwind, how bad is the headwind? If it's downwind, how bad is it? Exactly. I mean, I'm just trying to evaluate everything so that I can start to hone down my decision for what side of the field I'm going to throw toss and fetch from, because I think that can really make or break your day.
Yep.
Which side of the field you choose to throw from. So I'm already thinking right away. And you don't really have any say in when you're going to go. So, you may think in the morning when you're there, okay, the wind's blowing one direction. But if you notice that, oh, hey, every once in a while it changes and the wind direction goes this way, and it kind of does that, every hour, and it does that for like 5 minutes, you want to try to evaluate, okay, so if the wind changing that direction if it does that during my round that I happen to go up and it happens to change,
You better be ready.
Is that worth the risk of going to that side? And if it is, I need to be prepared for that to happen. So all of those little things to just try to hone in what decisions that I should make that day.
And I should clarify that is the reason I will, however many throws I do, I generally do the same amount from both directions for that reason, because the wind might change in the middle of your round. You think you're going to throw tailwind, you go out there and halfway through it's turned to headwind. It's happened to everybody out there. It happens most competitions at least once. And I want to have that feel of the headwind to know, okay, I got headwind now, or I got tailwind now, or whatever changed. I practice a little bit in it. I'm going to do better in it than if I just threw all my practice from one side and just threw from that side. Then if it changes, you're in trouble.
Right. I usually do more throws than Jeff, usually 20 or so from each side, but it depends. I mean, I've got injuries too, so it depends on how bad the injuries are. But I prefer to make more throws because I want to see more throws. To me, more practice throws is more information. So I prefer to get as much information as possible without wearing out my arm. So I do probably quite a bit more throws, and I have, been on the field where it's like as soon as they've opened the field, I'm throwing, and I'm still there when they're like,
Where they're
"Hey,
yelling,
get off!" So I have been that person that is there like the whole time. So
yeah, I would be worn out, and I wouldn't be able to compete if I did that.
Well, so
and that's why I got a limit.
have that at sometimes. So sometimes it's not always like that, but if I have the opportunity and my body's good, I will try to make more throws to assist my decision making and then deal with pain later. So,
I guess I'm
all about the right choice.
If I start getting fatigued, I was finding whenever I would warm up more, that by the end of the competition, my throws were getting worse.
Yes.
And that's and I didn't necessarily feel any different. I just noticed my throws weren't as good, and I figured it had to be because I just did too much. So whenever I just cut back on it a little bit, now I could go through the end of the competition, and generally I'm throwing good the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I found too.
Everybody's different.
That's what I found too.
That's
what I found too. I think I just get a little nervous to cut my throwing practice short because I really want that information for making my decisions. So that's really important to me. Normally, most like our local competitions, I don't practice my freestyle throws at all. And part of that is because I'm helping run the events, especially now. So I really don't have any time to practice the freestyle throws. But at a finals, I definitely like to go through and do a warm up of throwing before the rounds. And if I can do it on the field, I love that because, again, I want to make the right decision on which direction to make my throws. Of course, granted, it can all change when you're out there, right? But I like to go out with a plan and then, adjust as needed rather than like going out with no plan and then, okay, let me try to make my plan now while I'm out here. I want to have a plan in advance. So I'd rather go, have something planned and change it than to have no plan at all.
It's also valuable, even if you aren't allowed or able to do your freestyle practice on the field, on the main field, especially one you're not too familiar with. When you're doing your toss and fetch and you're walking across the field, you could walk, you don't want to walk down the middle of the field necessarily, but you could at least look at it as you're walking. Maybe you'll see a hole in the ground, termite mound or something, whatever, like any kind of things where you're like, what, I should stay away from that area. That area looks a little bit muddy. Get the lay of the land out there as best as you can. And you mentioned that before with seeing the slopes and everything like that. But if you're physically on the field, like when you're doing your competitor meeting, if you're on the field, I'm like taking it all in and I'm paying attention. Okay, I got to worry. I don't want to be over here. The grass is really high maybe or something.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. There's like a little hill in one area. It's like, all of these little things to take into account because, I mean,
the easy ups
championships
are
won by inches, not miles, typically. And so when there's one little thing that may go wrong that you were not aware of, it's like, okay, well, if I knew that was there, then I could have adjusted for it. But if you don't know it's there, you can't adjust.
I always tell people, especially when they're going to some of their first world finals and they ask for advice, especially when it's like the kids, like they're a little shyer. I always try to tell them, get on the field. Every opportunity you've got, whenever they're saying practice the whole time. because at that point you shouldn't be worried about if you're going to wear yourself out, especially if you're a young kid. You can just go forever. But the idea is that you got to take it all in as much as you can, and that knowledge that you gain early on is going to help you the rest of your career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then, so I haven't talked about warming up the dogs yet. So this is dog specific, of course. I kind of change depending on the dog, but most of my dogs have been, they've responded well to being warmed up this way, which is, obviously I walk them, let them go to the bathroom, but depending on what we're going to do, I warm up differently for toss and fetch versus freestyle. So toss and fetch, this is very dog dependent. So for example, Link, he's a young guy, so I just do a couple of little short throws, but I don't want to wear him out or, get him distracted or anything like that. So I work a lot on his handoff and, just getting him to pay attention. I really focus a lot on him watching and tracking the disc. So I do some high throws to try to get him to look. They're not very far. I just keep it pretty short. I might do one longer one just because he has a history of, he typically misses his first throw in toss and fetch. And I think it's just because he needs a warm up of that to just get his mouth working.
And that'll go away once he gets more experience down the road.
Yeah. And he's young. Mm-hmm. So Sora, I pretty much do the exact same thing but I do focus a lot more on warming up her mouth. So I may take like 2 or 3 discs out and do a lot of multiples. So I want to do maybe 20 to 30 multiples with her before I go out, which is kind of a lot. It's pretty extreme.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're not wearing a dog out by doing that. I mean, you can do as many as you want, really.
Long throws, like a bunch of long throws like that. I'm just doing right there. I want her mouth to be real keen. And that's an important piece that Sora specifically needs. And then I also work on the handoff, which, as she's gotten older, man, she really blows off my toss and fetch handoff warm up. Her toss and fetch handoff is just fine during the round, but when we're warming up, she kind of is like, no, I don't want to hand it to you because I don't want the warm up to be done. She would like warm up to go on forever, but I do a little bit of it, and she is responsive. Her handoff isn't as good as when we do the real round. But so I've kind of lightened up on doing the handoff stuff with her before the round because I know that she's just like, I already know this. I don't want to do it. I just want to do the real round. I do try to give her one full length throw, like maybe 2 or 3 short throws that are 10 yards or less. And then I do try to give her one long throw. And it's specifically for the reason that sometimes she will pre-jump on the very first throw. So kind of rare, but sometimes she does it. So I try to give her one full length throw. Flare, a little different. I got to warm up her handoff. I got to warm up, not her mouth as much. I do warm up her mouth, but I give her more throws than I do the other dogs because I kind of want her to slow down a little bit and not be such a wild child. When she's really off her rocker, she doesn't want to hand it off as well. So when she's gotten a few throws in, she will bring it directly to hand instead of being, spastic. So I want to kind of really take the edge off of her. So I give her a few more throws than I give Sora and Link. So maybe 4 or 5 throws and then really reward the handoff because she needs it.
Yeah.
So it's a little different depending on all the dogs.
Absolutely. That's what I was saying too. If I have a dog that tends to not bite the disc very hard, I'm going to try to tug a little bit more with them. If I have a dog that's working on handoffs, I'm going to just work on that a little bit more, that kind of thing. So yeah. I do that, basically the same stuff. Yeah. And I got one recommendation for people. There's a lot, but very specific to this. I see so many newer people come out and they either don't warm up at all their throws, or whatever side they're sitting on, that's where they go throw from when they do their round, no matter what the wind is doing. They didn't even test the wind or not even thinking about it. And they've come out to several competitions. They see people throwing from both ends, but they just, it's laziness. Let's just be honest.
Or you choose the popular side. That's another common, I think, new mistake, which I have a little story about that.
But come up with a reason to throw from one side or the other that isn't, well, I'm sitting here and I don't want to walk as far. Right. Have a reason to do it. It just kind of bugs me. I don't know why so many people just stand up and walk 3 feet over and want to throw from there, and they don't want to put the effort into figuring out which side to throw from.
Okay, I got 2 things. So I should mention the way that I prepared Torch as well, because I think it's really specifically unique. So Torch, when I would warm him up, it was for one purpose only. Which side can he see better? Because he had really severe sun blindness. So I would typically go down to one end and do one long throw, and then I turn around and go to the other end and do one long throw. And did he catch it on both sides? Was he able to see it? Was it easy for him both sides? If it was, then I was good to pick whichever side was better for me wind-wise. If he couldn't see it from one side, I knew I'm going to the other side. So the warm-up could be something totally different. It's like a testing to see which direction for the dog, even if you have a good, comfortable way that you would prefer to throw, what side. Sometimes your dog has a whole different idea. So that's how I would prepare with Torch. So that's kind of one that was good to note because it's totally different from the others. And then my story, you were talking about people just choosing the closest side or potentially just choosing the popular side. Well, everybody else is throwing from there, so that must be the side to throw from. That's not always the case. And one story I have about that is the 2024 AWI World Championships. And so Sora struggles a little bit when it's heavy downwind, and she does a little bit better when if it's really heavy winds, it's better to throw headwind with her. Even if the throws aren't as good, she catches up to it. She's a good catcher. So at AWI, I think there was maybe one other person or potentially two other people that threw from the side that I threw on, which was heavy into the wind. And this was for the overall round, not the toss and pitch only. But so I threw into headwind, which was definitely not the popular choice that day. Everybody was throwing downwind. And, I watched a couple teams that definitely helped make my decision. Past experiences and just my knowledge of Sora helped me make that decision. But I watched a lot of teams that they threw downwind and the dogs just weren't quite getting them. And I'm like, this is really solidifying my decision right now to throw into the wind. And I was prepared from that morning because I could see that the wind was pretty heavy starting in the morning. I'm like, I think today I may have to throw headwind because this wind's already severe and it's only going to get worse. So I already had it in my head that I was probably going to go throw headwind, and everything that I kept seeing really confirmed that decision. And I made the right decision because out of all the open dogs, Sora had the highest toss and fetch. And we chose the unpopular side. Like I said, I think one or two other competitors threw from that side, but we both, even if it was the popular side or the unpopular side, it was obviously the right decision for my dog and me.
We both have won world championships numerous times by throwing from the side that nobody wanted to throw from. And we did it because we had to. And to be honest with you, if I'm at a local competition or something like that, I probably wouldn't have made those decisions because I'd be like, whatever.
Well, I'm not overthinking it.
It's not as important for me.
Competitions, I mean, one of the disadvantages that we have is we always play at the same park.
Same wind.
We know it's the same wind, which is virtually none. We rarely ever get wind at the competition field that we play at. And we know the field. We know the way that it's sloped. We know all the details of the field. So the thing about us is qualifying there, all we have to do is just wash, rinse, repeat.
Right.
I mean, it's over and over and over. We don't have to make any adjustments. And so that does actually play a little bit of a disadvantage going into other events because we're not used to, like, sometimes you kind of forget, oh gosh, I got to really pay attention to all these things. And we haven't really been paying attention all year because we've been at the same field the whole time.
And a lot of times what I do at that field is I've done this many times where we have repeating locations. Even when we competed at Owls, I would do the same thing. I would do one round. If it was toss and fetch, I do one round from one side, and then the next round I'm doing it from the other side, just so I got different sun, different wind, different everything.
Yeah, if the stakes aren't high and you're not worried about the result,
I did that every single time in toss and fetch league. Every single time I would. Oh,
I did it a lot in toss and fetch league.
I would choose the side I would never want to use. But I even do it at our more serious competition field where we're doing qualifiers and things like that. Unless if a dog's already qualified, you're going to try both ends,
exactly,
kind of thing.
Exactly, get them used to both sides in different scenarios. And I try to, when I'm preparing for events, I try to find those different types of fields. I try to find the field that's not totally flat. I try to find the field that has
fat
heavy.
Field. We don't want a fat field either. I mean, whatever.
I try to find a field with the different wind types. I try to find all different stuff. Grass lengths, that's a whole other thing, especially if you got smaller dogs. That will play more of an impact than you would expect it to.
I used to do this a lot whenever we would have windstorms here. We don't have like normal wind here in Southern California like other areas where you have to have a storm, with rain and all that kind of stuff, and lightning and everything. We don't have that. What we end up when we get wind, like really heavy wind, it's hot out. It's very strange. It's called Santa Ana winds. So whenever we'd have Santa Ana winds, I would go out and practice in it a lot of times. I did it almost every single time, even though the air quality is bad. It's not the best idea for that. It is a great idea to practice in 40-mile-per-hour winds, and there's no rain or anything like that. So it's just, it could be like a real competition. And it's a lot worse than you're going to see at almost any competition.
But you learn a little bit about
You learn a lot about the wind, what your limits are and things like that.
Yeah. And you change your strategy based on your limits, right? I mean, if the wind is really that bad, I may just go out there and say, well, I think today I'm throwing a little bit shorter and I'm just going to deal with getting less points per throw. But that may be all it takes to win today, depending on the condition. I
did that last year in the Microdog Open division. I threw 30 yards. I think I may have done headwind whenever I did it, because I didn't think I was going to be able to get the 40 with the wind. It was not feeling good at all to me. And I said, you know what? I know I can get 5 good catches at 30 yards. And I did it. And that was enough. The highest or second highest score.
Enough to win. So that's good.
So you have to adjust. I'm normally out there throwing 40s. I don't shorten it up very often. You don't do it very often, but we do it if we have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only way you're going to know this is if you have all of this preparation.
If you've practiced and figured out the strategies. I mean, all your strategies have to be laid out in advance. And then, you just have to choose which strategy you're going to go with based on the conditions of the competition. One thing I didn't mention was how I warm up for freestyle with the dogs. And typically I just do some multiples. I try to do maybe a rebound, a dog catch, a flip. Like pretty much one sequence worth of stuff. If there's a particular trick that I feel that they need to warm up, I do it, but sometimes I don't like doing that, because what happens is I hit it in the warm up and then we miss it in the freestyle. So it's almost like it's not even worth bothering to warm up some of your tricks that you're worried about. In my opinion, a lot of times it just backfires. So I'm like, well, it's just going to be what it's going to be. Doing it once more is not going to fix everything I've worked up to. So sometimes it's better to just do it and focus on the moment and not try to fix your problems within one warm-up.
So guess what? Our sushi just showed up. Yeah. You know what that means?
I think this podcast is done.
That's right. Thank you for being here for the Disc Dog Pod. We're out.
Thanks for joining. See you next time.